On today's episode, we're talking with Lois Barth about thoughtful transformation, priority management, and how to use technology to set yourself up for success.
This is the Women Connected podcast, where we believe that women can improve their personal and professional lives through technology. If you're ready to cut through the noise and learn exactly the tools you need to create your professional brand, be recognized, and keep up in today's fast-paced world, then stay tuned.
Welcome to the Women Connected podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Goodgame, Program Director at TBW, where we believe that women can improve their personal and professional lives through technology. Don't forget to check our website for the show notes for all of our podcast episodes. Just go to tbwconnect.com/. If you're enjoying this podcast series, please take a moment and rate and review the podcast on. We appreciate your support. If you want more great content from TBW, you can like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. But even better, you can join TBW for just $52 a year and get access to members-only resources and events. Visit tbwconnect.com/join for more information. Today I'm talking with Lois Barth, a life coach, trainer, and motivational speaker. Lois was the life coach for two of the largest and most prestigious makeover projects in women's magazines, both Self and Fitness, and has been featured by and been a source expert for several national magazines. Lois brings over 20 years of experience as a coach, healthcare practitioner, and comedian to her programs. One of Lois's favorite topics is transformation, and as a business owner who understands the power of branding, today she's talking with us about the different ways we can engage in thoughtful transformation. Lois, welcome to Women Connected.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. I'm very excited to be on the call. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. So glad to have you.
Thanks.
So, as you know, on Women Connected, we really love to talk about technology and its transformative power on our lives. And I know we're going to get to that. But I'd love to hear a little bit of your thoughts on how your work helps people move through transformation more effectively.
Well, thanks, Lisa. Well, you know, I am somebody who I've always seen the power of insights and implementation. And really the crux of my work is I help people close the gap between where they are and where they want to be personally and professionally, because there's always that gap. And you need what I call principles, and mostly a lot around what I call being principles, like ways of being, consciousness, belief systems, but then you also need tools for implementation and how to merge the two so that you could really close that gap between where you are and where you want to be, both personally and professionally. And I help people close that gap. And we actually, Lisa, have fun doing it. So it's not what I call TE, terminal earnestness. It's fun, it's enlivening, and it's, to coin a very used phrase, it's juicy. So yes, I'm very excited about my work and sharing with how I do what I do.
That's wonderful. So as we were preparing for this interview, we were talking about some of the work that you're doing on your own self and on your own business, particularly in the form of rebranding. Can you share a little bit about what that process has been like for you and maybe how technology is helping your business to grow now?
That's an interesting question. And Lisa, as you know, and we had a big laugh about it when you invited me, that I call myself, you know, I'm really cranky around technology, so I had a big laugh when you asked me to speak. But really my goal today is to talk about how to transform our relationship with technology, to look at it as a tool versus a weapon against ourselves, you know, putting too much pressure on ourselves, wasted time. So in terms of my rebranding, basically what I'm really looking at is studying the people that I really want to reach and the different business models that are going to support that goal. So, for example, I come from a very, very strong performance background, one-woman shows, stand-up comedy, arts education, a lot, and I am really quite a wordsmith. So we're going to create a whole platform for my what's called Loisisms, which are lessons, opportunities, insights, and solutions. And we're going to be launching a lot of videos and products that help support them. And basically what Loisisms are, they're snappy little sound bites, but that help to retain learning so that people can take those Loisisms and apply them directly to their life. And we're going to build out a whole platform of how to make that shift happen on a daily basis. Like one of my little buzz phrases are shift happens, but only if you happen to know how to shift. Again, closing the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So we're going to be rolling out videos. We're going to have products connected to it. We're going to have strategic partnerships. So it's literally a one-stop shopping for our target market, and whatever need they need addressed, we can address that need.
So in this idea of technology as a tool versus a weapon,
yes,
how is that working for you as you're going through this process? Because I know you've mentioned that some of the things that you're doing are very new to you and very unfamiliar.
Absolutely. I feel that it's a really good question. One of the things that I see my clients, and I'm also a speaker, obviously, and is this big issue, I call it big shiny object syndrome, that it's so easy for us to get really distracted. And we have to be very careful with technology, the technology that we take on, that it's really furthering our mission in the world and not a distraction. And two things I really feel is I'm very, I love that expression, reach for the stars, but stay planted on the ground, and I feel very strongly about that. So when taking on a new piece of technology, you really have to ask yourself, is this going to further my calling? And is this also going to help me with generating income revenue streams? Because we can have all the pie-in-the-sky ideas, but if we can't pay the rent, we're not going to have the same impact to the world around us, right? We just can't do it because we've got to walk our talk and we've got to function in a physical world. So if there's a piece of technology that you think is going to help further your calling, but it's way above your learning curve, I really suggest to people to outsource it, to say, hey, I need this in my business, but I'm not the one to do it. And it's worth paying a VA 30 to 40 or 50 bucks an hour to get it handled so that I can go and move forward on my mission, or an intern or whoever it is, but it's still part of my business model, than it is for me to really try and tackle it myself. So would you like a specific, I'm sure you would like a specific example of that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you had an example of something
Sure.
that you've encountered in this current process that you're going through and you realized, that's really not for me. I need to find someone professional who can do this.
Yeah, and there's some really simple ones I've been really dealing with, and I haven't fully integrated them into my business. They're really technology 101. But one of the things I really look at, Lisa, is my love affair. I mean, I really feel like I earn a living talking, listening, edutaining, right, and adapting material, and really educating people. And so if there's a piece of technology that can help further that, but I'm not good at it. So I'll give you three very specific tools, right? So my current credit card portal, the charges are way too high for my taste. They also don't allow me the same flexibility when I add an event and somebody will say, hey, Lois, I want to purchase a coaching session. So Square One? You'll tell me the name.
Yeah, I think it's just Square.
It's probably Square. See, that's my knowledge of technology.
Yeah,
right
I think
there.
that's their primary brand name.
Yeah, so I needed to know there were some intricacies. So I have it. I'm going to start using it, but I had my assistant do all the research. I spend a lot of time back and forth. People want, I have a packed practice. People want times. They re-switch times. Something like Time Trade, which is a scheduling tool. So all of these things that are real time zappers, but they're very important. Scheduling clients, rescheduling it. Time Trade is a great tool for that. I didn't want to do the research. I asked my assistant to spend 2 hours on the web to look at reviews on different scheduling tools, because I don't want to have my clients be at the impact of a technology that's not great, right? So she did 2 hours of research on that. We came up with Time Trade. I asked around. Square is another one. Hootsuite is a great one because, again, I'm not great with social media, but I do a lot in the world. I mean, I was quoted 4 times in the last 6 months Wall Street Journal. I need that. My people need to know about the different things I'm doing because I provide content and learning for them. So Hootsuite was amazingly helpful. And I, ironically, said to my assistant, do you know about Hootsuite? And she said, no. I said, this is what you need to know. It's a dashboard. You schedule your posts. So again, I really look at what are the soul-crushing elements of my business, but they need to get done. The biggest tool that I think I shared with you before, Lisa, is the numbers tool. Most people are not going to know about this. I think it's absolutely, bar none, the most valuable tool I've used.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because this was fascinating to me.
Mark LeBlanc is a business coach, a small business business coach, and he's a wonderful man. And I had just a couple of sessions with him, but he gave me one of the best tools, which is a numbers tool. Which, by the way, there's going to be a special offering. I just cleared it with his office today. He's not offering it to everyone, just people who I refer. Basically, it's a free tool. He's launching a huge program. So I'm going to be really specific here. One of the things I tell my clients that I work with, especially small business owners that are looking to launch their business or take their business to the next level, it's like everything else. And I also do relationship coaching, like diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's a professional suicide. And I can't say that strongly enough, to put all your eggs in one basket. So one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to have multiple revenue streams, because 2 years ago I only had one, and it was coaching. And when my clientele went down, I was in trouble. I said I will never do that again. Plus, I'm somebody who loves to do 1,000 things, right? So I actually have something called a numbers tool that actually outlines every single one of my profit centers and how much money each month I'm making in each of my profit centers. Right? Because as solopreneurs, we get very mystified, but the numbers tell the truth. Life is subjective, but the numbers are objective. So to just be really specific in my life now, the numbers tool helps me chronicle all my different profit centers. And would it be helpful for me to give an example of what I mean by a profit center?
Yes, absolutely. And also I'm wondering if it helps you with projection as well. Bingo, totally. So I have an optimistic number I want to make a year, and it breaks it down to what does that mean a month, right? And then I basically have, right now I have 6 profit centers, right? I'm a keynote speaker. I am a workshop leader. I do executive coaching. Companies hire me all the time to go internally in their coaching, with their VPs and middle management people. Mm-hmm. I have a private practice coaching, right? And I also have a product profit center. So now I have 5. And I get to see every month, how are my different profit centers working? And what's lagging behind? And if I say I want to make X dollars a year speaking, well, guess what? The numbers don't lie. And it's incredibly grounding, because as solopreneurs, we can get very, very pie in the sky. And we need to look and go, that's nice, but we said we want to make X dollars, but you know what? We actually only made Y dollars. Not to make yourself wrong, but to say, for the next 90 days, I'm going to put more energy into profit center A versus B. The other thing that it does, which I love, I don't consider myself a very visual person, but I am very goal-oriented. So it has this groovy light tool that when you make your weekly number, the yellow lights up. When you make your daily number, and you get to know how much do I need to make a day? How much do I need to make a week? So when your daily number lights up, when you meet it, it turns to yellow. When you meet your weekly, it turns to blue. And when you make your monthly, it turns to green. And every single time you enter a new numbers tool, the percentages go up. So you could say, hey, I'm up to 78% of my, optimistic number. And it's really incentivizing. It just jazzes me up. And now I call the office, and Kylie, his assistant, Mark's incredible assistant, said, well, we have an upgraded tool that has what's called HVAs, which are high-value activities. One of the things that I see, I coach a lot of solopreneurs and also entrepreneurs. One of the things is they can get very pie in the sky. They can go to 27 networking events, but then not follow up with any of them. Mm-hmm. Or they can spend a lot of time dancing, in
I would say not even low-hanging fruit, non-existent, shriveled up fruit. Spending time following up. Well, I did 17 Facebook postings. Yes. Are they your decision makers? Are they your ideal clients? Do they know the ideal clients? So the HVA system helps you really look at the pipeline. How many people are you really courting in your pipeline? And you get to also assess what percentage of the clients that you have are you actually closing. So I do a lot of strategic coaching with my clients, but I also do a lot of communication work. And I say, hey, what are the caliber of the conversations that you're having? And are they closing? And if they're not, how do we need to reconfigure them to close? And the numbers don't lie. So if you have 40 people in your pipeline and you're closing 4, something's wrong. Either you're not reaching the right people or you're not enrolling them. You're not educating what's in it for them. Did this make sense to you, Lisa?
Absolutely.
Okay,
So
great.
I'm wondering, what platform is this tool on? Is it web-based? Is it Excel-based? I mean, I'm trying to imagine
Excel.
a flashing Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But
That's what it is. It's not flashing. Well, I guess it is flashing, right, if it has the colors.
Yeah.
It's a basic, Mark, I spoke with Mark about it, and he was going to do a web-based, and he decided not to do a web-based. It'll be basically like a software that you could purchase. Right now, like I said, in his beta testing stage, for select clients, he's allowing people to just shoot an email, and he will send it to them free. Next Q1 of 2014, he's going to really take it. It'll be the launch, and it'll be obviously, a fairly high, moderate to high ticket price. So it's a great tool for, for small business owners, and even not even so small. Even a medium-sized business owner would be a wonderful tool. So yes, it's and I have a Mac, and I sent it to clients that are on PCs, and they have no issue with it whatsoever.
well, that's great, and that's wonderful. It's a great benefit to be able to offer that for our listeners, and I'll make sure to put the contact information in the show notes so that people can get in touch with you to request
Terrific.
that tool.
Terrific.
So you've mentioned that sometimes you feel as though you've really resisted adopting new technology. And as you said earlier, you call yourself the technology curmudgeon.
Yes, I do.
But it's really become more central to doing your work, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And that's where, I always say to my clients, I say to my relationship clients, do you want to be right or do you want intimacy? And I say to my business clients, do you want to be right or do you want to financially succeed? And as much as I am a curmudgeon around technology, I also am very bright and savvy. And I know what is going to serve me and what is not going to serve me. And so I think the important thing is to really look at what does your business need to move it forward, and what are the tools in your toolkit that are going to help move it forward, and to assess what is my skill set in this area. And if your skill set is above a certain, limited to what it's going to take, don't waste your time. One of the things I have my clients do is I tell them, I say, okay, how much money do you want to make a year? And they say, I want to make $150,000 a year. I go, okay. This is an example. A lot of my clients make a whole lot more than that. But they go, in my business, I want to make $150,000 a year. And I say, great. And how many hours do you want to work? And they said, I don't want to work. I don't want to be working 90 hours and killing myself. Great. I say, how many hours? And they say, I want to work 40 hours a week. And I said, great. And how many weeks a year? And I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. How many weeks a year do you want off? And they go, I want 4 weeks of vacation. So we actually say what their hourly fee is. And I had one very, very high successful guy that was doing a lot of his really just silly admin work. For the family. He was doing all these elaborate spreadsheets. And I said, would you pay somebody $500 an hour to do this admin work? And he said, no. I said, well, that's what you're losing. Because you given how much money you make, you spend 10 hours a week on this, you're literally spending $20,000 a month on admin. And literally his plate dropped. And he's like, oh my God, you're right. So this is what you really got to ask yourself. Get strategic with the numbers. I'm all about the dreams and the calling and the impact that you want to have in the world. But guess what? You've got to have your living expenses covered and then some, so that you can walk your talk and you can be a thought leader and make the kind of contribution in the world that you want to make. So that's really, the numbers don't lie. Really get clear what your hourly rate is given how many weeks a year you want to work. And to learn that technology, if it's going to be much more than that, and you're not passionate about learning. I mean, some people are like technological hobbyists where they go, oh my God, it totally jazzes me up. Well, just make sure that's your hobby time. Don't have that be your work day. If that's what you're going to use, make sure it's your work day, your hobby time, not your work day.
I think that those are some really profound insights and some really great suggestions for people who are already in that field of trying to work for themselves, trying to get something off the ground. What advice do you have for people who may still be working as employees, who really have what they think is a great idea, but they just don't yet maybe feel the confidence to go out on their own? What advice do you have for them if they're trying to make that transformation?
Lisa, I'm really glad you brought this up because those are the clients that come to me a lot. They're already successful in their staff position, and they can have anything from velvet or burlap, handcuffs, and they know that something else speaks to their soul. So I think there's a couple of things. First of all, I had a voice teacher when I used to be a performer. I had a voice teacher that said, work slow to work fast. One of the traps people make is they throw a lot against the wall and they look at what sticks. Not a good theory. So I think the first thing is to really, I think the first thing is to really get guidance. Like that's where coaching comes in really helpful. Very helpful to clarify exactly what is this idea for a business, and to really get support on mapping out a strategy and what are the best use of your time. Because if you're working in a 40-hour-a-week job, or even 50, you don't have that much extra time. Maybe you have, if you really push it, 10 hours a week, and that's still a lot. So how are you going to make the maximum use out of those 10 hours? Who are the strategic partners? I also am a big fan of looking at already existing models. So who are the people out there doing what you're going to do, but you're going to bring your own joie de vivre and flair to it? What's working about the model? What's not working? And I really believe that big changes happen on small, consistent, aligned steps. That when people say, okay, this is the big picture. And it's hard to sometimes be patient because you want to be out of there already. But I really feel like, and this is not engraved in stone, but I find most transitions to be somewhere around 18 to 24 months. And that's when the person is pretty darn clear. Now, there have been exceptions to that rule, both longer and shorter, but, I think it's really a good idea to look in terms of chunks of time. And that's why when I coach people, I say, what do you want to accomplish in the next 90 days? And so to just start to be really clear with, what is your business? What do you want to create? And really get a strategy down. And it doesn't mean you can't test market and, I'd like to put my toe in the water and see what happens. Why not? But if you're really serious about making a transition, it's really important to have a clear vantage point of where you want to go. And if you don't know your demographics, then get support to find out who your demographics. But look for models that already exist that you like, but then you can create your own, like I said, joie de vivre and your own divine imprint.
So, Lois, one of the things I wanted to go back to, you were talking with the numbers tool about all of the different profit centers you have, but I was sort of hearing it as you have 6 different jobs. And how do you manage all of your responsibilities? How do you manage your time?
That's a really good question. I ask myself that on a daily basis. One of the things, there's many books I've read on time management, and one of the best ones I liked was The Power of Engagement, Managing Your Energy versus Your Time, and I think that's probably one of the best books. I also really like David Allen. He's very, very, very specific, but getting it done. But I really think I don't think in terms of time management. I think in terms of priority management and energy management, because it's really about managing your priorities on a daily basis and really being honest where you get distracted. And I know I definitely fall prey to it, but I really look at I look at my no matter what list every day. I say, given what I have to do and what my goals are, what are my 3 no matter what's for the day? And then I look, and at the end of the day, I assess if those 3 got handled. And if they don't get handled, I really have I have what I call a little Jewish come to Jesus meeting with myself. And I say, hey, what got in the way? And I find that it's often putting other, sometimes, life intervenes. I also have a mom who's at home hospice, so I have to manage her care. So I look at, am I putting other people's needs above my own? Am I distracting myself because I just haven't put structures in place? I ask myself a lot of questions, gently, just what I call gentle honesty with myself to say, what got in the way of those 3 NMWs not getting met? Because when people do meet those no matter what, the results will show up in their life. Or they'll find out, wow, I need to have a better criteria for my NMWs. So I think prioritizing is very important. I also think understanding what your natural, biorhythmic circadian rhythms are, like after 9 o'clock, I'm not good for a lot of heavy lifting. I could answer some emails, but if I use what I call I do a whole program on this, but if I use my savvy time, that time of the day when I'm in the zone to do a lot of frittering away admin work, then I'm really wasting my time. So I really look at when am I prime? And those are the hours that I really do my best to have my high revenue, my coaching my clients when I'm the freshest and the clearest, I could provide the most value, put together my content from my speaking, make those calls to reach out for speaking engagements, look at content, have important conversations with decision makers. The 4 to 6 is really more, although I'm very fresh, I have to say, I feel very fresh today. But the 4 to 6 is more for the winding down stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's very important to assess priorities and energy and look at time as just a structure in which to do that. Does that kind of answer your question?
It does, and it sounds like really wonderful advice for looking at how to help ourselves become more effective. I won't even say more efficient, but just how to become more effective.
Yeah, and that's why I love the term productive. It's not about producing more. It's producing what's in line with your goals. And I just had this experience just now where I was on a call with a client of mine that I'm doing work, and in the conversation, all these other possibilities for us to work together came out of the conversation. And what I really got from that is I'm sort of old school. I make my best contacts over the phone and in person. My online presence helps to support that, but when things really happen, it's either on the phone or in person. So I'm not going to be spending so much time online because that's just not who I am. I can have support. I need to have an online presence, where somebody else is brilliant online, and that's where their message gets out, and they need to be spending more time online building their brand. So I think it's really knowing who you are and what is the best use of your time, given your energy, given your zone of genius, given what lights you up and intrinsic to who you are.
And what's the best medium for connecting? And that's actually a topic that we have coming up on a future episode.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So important. Really important.
So as we wrap up here, what would be your key piece of advice for women who are nervous about adopting something new?
Well, I think the first thing is to really be honest with yourself. Be really honest. This piece of technology, how is it going to further your calling and your revenue stream? Just really be honest with yourself. And then really ask yourself, not to be a broken record, but I think these are the questions you got to ask yourself. How far out of my skill set is it to learn this technology? And if it's way far out, but you know that you need it in your model, get support. Don't feel like you've got to be this, like this hero and at your own expense. So I would say get the support. So I would say assess given, what the business you want to build. Does this further your calling? the people you can reach out to? Does it further a revenue generator? And how above your skill set is it to adopt this technology? And if you say, wow, it's really valuable to my business, but boy, it's going to take me a big learning curve, then attach a dollar value and say it's worth $200 to get somebody else to get it up and running. You know, like my famous lines when people go, oh, do your own website. And I'm like,
right.
Not in this life, you know, woohoo. Tie me in a jacket that goes on backwards before I do my own website. Just so not my skill set. You know, and you'll save so much time. No, I really won't, you know. You'll save so much money. No, I won't. So I think that's really what it is. And I think the other thing is, Lisa, is when you're doing something really new, be really gentle with yourself, but be honest with yourself. And there's nothing better than making some nice small inroads and being able to celebrate, because that will give you confidence to go to the next step. And now they've actually linked that with brain science, because the amygdala, as you know, is the fight-flight mechanism of the brain.
Yes.
And if you overwhelm yourself, your caveman, cavewoman system will go, oh my God, I have a charging buffalo coming at me, when that, of course, is not the case. So you actually can train yourself to win and to have victories and to stretch yourself a little further.
I love that advice. Be gentle with yourself when you're adopting something new. It's so sometimes in our nature to just try to go, as I like to say as a Texan, whole hog, and you know, just try to go from 0 to 60.
Yes.
And
yes.
Sometimes the best thing we can do is just go slowly from 0 to 10.
Exactly.
and begin to find our way through something.
Gentle and honest. I think those are the two things. You know, you're right. And it's the culture that we live in. And I live in New York City, so it's like 150 miles per hour. It's not even 60. Yeah, and as opposed to, I call it turbo tortoise, you know, like the tortoise and the hare, you know, sure and easy wins the race, but you can rev up the volume one notch to stretch yourself. But if you start doing it to volume 10 when you're at a 2, you're just not going to do it, or you're going to feel really clobbered by it.
Yeah, it's the difference between setting yourself up for success and setting yourself up for failure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as we come to the end here, I do want to mention something that you have offered for our listeners of Women Connected. We'll be sharing in the show notes a piece that Lois has written called Transition. It's Not a Pretty Sight, 7 Strategies for Navigating Change Through Challenging Times. And this is a really wonderful piece that goes through, I think, it says 7 strategies. I guess you go through 7 stages, really, of learning how to navigate a change from, you know, just the very beginning, almost preliminary stage, to finally being the butterfly stretching its wings and leaving the cocoon.
Absolutely. It's using the model from Nature of the Metamorphosis, and how we, just like that caterpillar to butterfly, can reinvent ourselves personally and professionally.
So it's a great resource, and as I said, we'll be putting info in the show notes on how you can get that from Lois. So Lois, thanks again so much for your time. It's been really wonderful having you on the podcast.
It's been really wonderful being on the podcast. Thanks for inviting me, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
The Women Connected podcast was brought to you by TBW and the TBPW Foundation, underwriter of many of our training and leadership development programs. For more information about TBW membership and our upcoming programs, please visit our website at tbwconnect.com. We hope you'll join us next time on Women Connected.